Hi, and welcome back to the HSP Connection with me, Philippa Robinson.
And me, Robbie Lee. This is where we share our stories, insights, and strategies to help fellow highly sensitive people navigate their own path to living a fulfilling and meaningful life.
We're on a mission to reclaim the word sensitive and help the world see the strength in sensitivity. So, Robbie, what are we talking about today?
Today, we're talking about one of my favorite topics, which I know I say about a lot of topics,
But
but
this
it
really
is.
This
Really is. Yeah, and it's self-love.
Yay, self-love.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Oh, man. I know for myself, I've been on quite a journey of self-love. Like when I really started embracing what it meant to be an HSP, and like after my health shut down my life and I was back on my healing road, one of the big parts of healing was growing my self-love. And I know that I couldn't have gone very far down that path without doing that. So I think it is so vital, and I'm really excited to be in conversation about it.
Yeah, me too. And as you were talking then, I could feel like the emotion welling up in me already. We've only like a minute in, because it is so important. And I definitely didn't grow up feeling any self-love. So, and I know I'm not alone.
No.
And it's quite a journey when
It
you,
really
yeah.
is. Yeah. You know, when you're talking about when you're little, oh my gosh, there's so many messages that we get when we're little. And for a lot of us, it's things like you have to do X in order to earn love. And even if that's not explicitly said, it's how it feels. Right. And we also, so for me, I definitely internalized that message. I don't at all think my parents meant that, but that's what I interpreted as little me. You know, if I have to get good grades, I have to be good, I have to um not break the rules. Like these are the things that would earn me love. And it's the root of my perfectionism and people pleasing. You know, it came from part of that. And we also get messages from home and from society, from school, all the systems that we've talked about before. Things like who you are isn't good enough, or that part of you needs to be changed. You know, don't cry, I'll give you something to cry about. Why are you so sensitive? Stop being so loud. You're too emotional. All the messages, you're too quiet. So for me, it was like, you know, for me, it was you're too quiet. Stop being whatever, be more sociable, speak up. Because kids, we get told all of these things because again, people are trying to make us fit into the system so the system will work. And the downside of that is then we've internalized these messages of, oh, I'm not, who I am isn't lovable. I need to change myself to be loved.
Yeah. And I got the opposite. I got the stop talking so much, stop. But they're definitely just two, you know, different sides of the same thing. And you're right, it is I totally agree with you that it is all about fitting into what this norm is, this society norm. And not to throw parents under the bus, because
not at all,
you know, much as my parents weren't great parents, I don't for 1 minute believe that they wanted to create in me self-loathing instead of self-love. I think they were just completely blind to that. Might have been the outcome. And also I don't think they loved themselves that much either. So it's not a surprise that they couldn't model that for me.
I think you raised such a great point. I mean, our parents are often doing their best to prepare us for the world as they know it, right? So telling us to be quiet or speak up more could be in an effort to be like, so that you're socially acceptable, so you'll be okay in life. Like, you know, a lot of these come from that good place of, I'm trying to give you the skills to survive out there, and this is the best I know, you know.
And a lot of it is written by their story.
100% right.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I've talked on the podcast before about my mum putting me on my first diet when I was 7. And a lot of that was because as an adult, she had issues with her body image. And, you know, I don't think she wanted me to suffer like that. I definitely think there was also an element of she didn't want to have a fat kid as well. But it certainly didn't work. You know, shaming me like that didn't work, and she didn't get the daughter who looked the way that she wanted her to look. But everything that you talked about at the beginning, you know, I resonate with so much, and I'm sure the listeners do as well, to varying degrees, but I'm sure they absolutely understand what you're talking about. And if I may, that is all about us looking outwards and getting love from outside.
I was just going to go here. We're on the same track. Yes,
exactly.
go.
Well, we often are, aren't we? And that is absolutely my experience, your experience, the experience of a lot of people listening, which is why what you want to talk about today is so important. Over to you.
Oh, you're so sweet. You didn't have to pass the baton, but thank you. Yeah, because love really is an inside game. You know, all of these things that we are searching for outside of ourselves. We want someone else to love us. We want someone else to accept us. We want someone to think we're smart or we're kind, or whatever that longing is. Was we all have longings, and we often direct them outside. I wish so and so would think of me in this light. And all of those really boil down to a longing within ourselves to feel that way about ourselves. And so we can become aware of what those are by noticing, like, what are we, like in the work setting? I wish people would think I was smart. It's a really good indicator of, what is my relationship to how I'm feeling about my own intelligence? Like what's going on in there with my self-talk? Am I loving that part of myself? Do I fully accept that part of myself? What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm feeling quite emotional here.
Yeah.
It's really yeah, it just runs so deep. And doesn't it? And those harsh words, or that you might have heard, or those feelings that you grow up feeling that you're not enough, that you're not, you know, whatever enough. You know, we know all of those. Not enough, not thin enough, not clever enough, not I don't know, fast enough at sport, not anything, everything enough. And to be able, you know, I mean, I was a 50-year-old adult, so, you know, hopefully people listening are going to be able to do it a lot earlier than that. But to be able to turn that around at long last and be able to feel that love inside and know that I am totally and utterly acceptable and lovable and loved.
Yes.
Exactly as I am.
Yes.
Is like, I mean, it's life-changing.
It is.
Yeah, and you're at it now.
I'm getting emotional. Yes. It's like, oh,
it's a cry fest today.
Yes, because you know that acceptability, like the self-acceptance, which I think is so closely tied to self-love. It's something I've been aware of lately for myself. And these messages, and they can be so sneaky, but it's some version of Like I'll be good enough when I do like when I've lost the weight, then I'll be acceptable, right?
Yeah.
When I've made this much money, then I'll be acceptable. When I'm fill in the blank, right? But there's this, and there's nothing wrong with having goals, but what that does, it's that constant message to ourselves is the way we are right now is not okay. And one of the ones that I noticed I was doing to myself is, well, when I'm healthier, then. Because I'm still on this health journey I've been with for years. Things still flare up for me. And I was like, wait a minute. No, I am lovable and acceptable, even if I never get any healthier, just the way I am right now. And yeah, it's going to make me tear up, I guess. But that's the power of self-love, though, because it is really digging into these messages that can be so sneaky. Like I didn't even realize I was telling myself that. But we are each lovable and acceptable right now. And the place to start with feeling that is giving it to yourself. That's the phenomenon of, you don't think you're pretty. 5 people say, oh my gosh, you look so pretty, but it doesn't stick, right? It's just like, it doesn't like move the needle for you. Like it feels good for a second, but you don't really believe it. And so it doesn't stick until you believe you're beautiful. Then it's like, oh yeah, thank you. Yes.
And you're right. You're absolutely right that people, so, hundreds of people can tell you you're beautiful, but if you don't believe it, it's absolutely, it's going to stay on the outside.
Yes.
It's not going to come inside.
That's right.
And I think just opening yourself to the possibility that actually maybe I am beautiful could be a little start, couldn't it?
Yes.
And all these, can all these people be wrong? Why do I think that I'm so much more right than all these other people who are telling me I'm beautiful, I'm smart, I'm whatever it is? So maybe just a little chink, a little bit of a possibility that might be true is a good start, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was telling you before we started recording that somebody put a comment on one of my LinkedIn posts today saying I'm beautiful inside and out, and it was like, it was a bit cringy, but actually, I'm sorry if this sounds like, but I kind of believe that.
Yes.
I think I am. So
yes.
So yes, it's a little bit cringy, but it's nowhere near. I'd be batting that about. I'd be deleting it. Going, can't possibly have that comment there, and don't be so daft. Of course not. And who am I to tell that person that they don't think that?
That's right. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just huge, and I do. I mean, there's always, as we've said, there's always a bit more work to do, but I have massively changed things around in the last few years to be able to believe that more, and none so much about my body, actually. And I remember I started with, if this is as good as it gets, can I live with this? If I don't get any slimmer, after doing yet another diet, and I did one of those, have virtually no calories and lost loads of weight.
Sure.
It's great. Didn't stay off though, because guess what? They don't. And because I hadn't done the inner work. So could I accept, if this was as good as it got, could I accept that? And I realized I could. And that was my first step to moving along the line to actually, this is not just as good as it gets, this is really great.
Yes. Oh, I love the way you broke that down into the first step was, well, if this is as good as it gets, could I live with it? you know, and now you're like, actually, it's great. This is great. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. When you were talking about that, I was thinking about all the messages we get about what is wrong with us, because people are trying to sell us products to fix the thing that's wrong with us. Right.
Absolutely.
And so the flip side of that is we go, oh, there's something that needs to be fixed.
Yeah. We need a cream for that, or we need a potion or a lotion or a pill or a something. Right. Something that is going to, and preferably something that's going to cost us a lot of money, and they're going to press that pain point in us and tell us that we are not fill in the blank enough.
Yeah.
And you know, you are going to be, I mean, they don't say you're going to be enough, but the idea is that you will feel a lot better about yourself.
Absolutely. And what's so sneaky about it too, because I can look back through my life, and I was not a fat child. I didn't start gaining weight until adulthood. I was actually a quite thin child. But in college, a little bit in high school and definitely in college, I just thought I'm fat. And I can look back on photos and go, I was objectively not fat. But my experience was, I'm feeling like I'm not thin enough.
Yeah.
I need, and the conversation for my mom all growing up was always, she was on a diet and this diet, and she's weighed too much. And so that was like, I just soaked that all up. And it's just like, I just keep thinking about the messages we get everywhere. Like it makes sense that we're, you know, we've got some challenges with self-love and self-acceptance, because we're not getting a lot of messages out there in media saying, you know what? You don't need this. You're perfect just the way you are. You're great.
Yeah, exactly. Can you imagine if those were the messages that were on billboards and that were on the TV? And I mean, I think more so, I don't know about in the US, but more so the adverts on the TV here are much more inclusive. We see much more different better different bodies and colors of skin and bodies that work in different ways, and you know, all manner. I'm like, bring this on. This is much more real.
Yes there surprise, there's more than one body type of human. Right?
Oh, shocker.
shock. So yes, I agree. It's same in the US. Like we are seeing more representation of all different types of bodies, which is beautiful. And still a ways to go.
A long way to go. And you know, so many generations of conditioning to move away from.
100%. There are people in my family and in my wife's family where it's just like it's a constant conversation about calories, and I'm just like, I can't have this conversation. I'm not doing this with you. Look, I don't care what you're eating, because it's like, oh, I shouldn't have that many. Like, I don't care, and you don't need to be having that conversation with me. Like, enjoy yourself, or whatever that looks, whether that means eating it or not. Enjoy yourself. Like, you don't need to be, because it's always like this guilt and Anyway, there's so much about body I'm sure we could get into, but
and it's also incredibly boring.
Oh,
it's really boring spending time with people who all they do is talk about whether they're going to eat something, not going to eat it, or feel guilty after they've eaten it. I mean, I'm just honing in on food here because I'm sure we've all experienced that. It's just made it into such a big deal.
Yeah.
And which just goes to perpetuate it. You know, I grew up with a mother who berated herself all the time for the size she was. And, you know, so that's definitely where I got my first ideas of what it might be. Or certainly the way she looked was clearly not acceptable because of the way that she treated her body and talked about herself. I still didn't know quite what I should look like. I learned what I shouldn't look like. And then I got told that I shouldn't look like I looked like. So then it's like, okay, but what do I do? What, you know, so we're constantly striving for something that we don't even know what that is.
Yeah, you're right. It's just something it's something other than what we are.
Exactly. So we are always going to be striving for that.
Yes.
Because the only thing we actually can be is who we are.
That's right.
And who we are is bloody wonderful.
Yes. Like, isn't that a wonderful concept to think about? Just like all that energy that goes to, I need to fix this about myself and fix that and change this and taking all that back and just being like, and who I am is great.
Yeah.
Not perfect, whatever perfect is, because that's a made up construct.
Exactly.
But perfectly me.
Exactly. Yeah. I love the what's the quote, which, I butcher quotes all the time, but it's like, be yourself because everyone else is taken.
It's taken. That's right.
Just be yourself.
Just be you.
But I don't think we can have this conversation without talking about, okay, so, say somebody's listening and they go, right, okay, I'm going to love myself and I'm going to accept that who I am is wonderful. What then happens is that not everybody is going to like that.
True.
Because a lot of people have bought into this, message that we have to, and there's a massive $1 billion industry around, listen to me talking in dollars as well, $1 billion industry around changing who we are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's blooming radical and disobedient, isn't it? It goes completely against what we've been taught to go, no, I'm not going to listen to those messages anymore. I am going to be me and I am going to like who I am. I'm going to love who I am.
Absolutely.
And I'm just going to be me out in the world, being joyful and, doing my best. And, my God, don't get me wrong, I know that not every day is a day full of joy, but having more joy and having more of those moments of feeling good about ourselves, good about our life. But there are a lot of people who have really spent a lot of time and effort and money buying into that whole story that we have to be making ourselves be a certain way. And they've bought into it so much that they cannot see other people not buying into it and being happy.
Yeah. So
they kind of have to spoil it or try and spoil it.
They try. I was going to say,
are you getting what I'm saying? Am I explaining that enough, do you think? Well enough?
Well, I know what you're talking about. And it makes me think about back in the last corporate job I had, there was a woman, she was new to the team. And as jobs do, the food was there. It's just like there's always an occasion for food. Food would happen, right? And she was constantly talking about, like I'd mentioned, kind of like the calories and is she going to eat it and whatever. And I just kind of like would engage. But then she said something to somebody else about their food. And I'm just like, oh, fuck that. I'm not doing that. And so I was just like, who cares? Why would you need to comment on somebody else's food? And like, that's all I did. And then I changed, it's like move the conversation. And she never brought up food again in my presence. Right. So it's like, you're right. Like people, because we're all walking around with our own stuff. So food for her was really important because of what her body looked like was really an important focus for her. And as I got to know her, I learned why that was.
Yep.
And, because we all have our stuff.
We do.
And so she was then spilling that over into other people, like you were talking about, right? It's just like, oh, well, let me bring my thing to your land now. Why are you having two of those? Well, this is like, who cares?
Yeah.
It's just they're delicious. It's just food,
Yeah.
So I think I said that as an example to be like, if she had said that and it was a hot button for me, then that could have taken me down into, oh yeah, like my own judgment could start again. But because it wasn't one for me, I had some pretty solid self-acceptance and self-love around this area, at least at the time when she said it. It didn't hit anything for me. It kind of bounced off and I was just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So I think it still comes back to like, how are we feeling on the inside? It helps a lot. Yeah. But to your point, not everyone is just going to go along with our new way of being in the world.
No. And you make a very good point. So when I say that some people might try and spoil it, they've got their own stuff going on. Yeah. And it is, and so when we are trying this whole self-love thing, because please try it, because it's life-changing. Yes. Like you said, until it's not a hot button anymore, maybe you pick and choose who you spend your time with. You pick and choose who you have the conversations with. You as much as you can, and you stay out of sort of more inflammatory type situations until you can feel more grounded in them.
I think that's really great advice.
Yeah. I'm quite grounded a lot of the time now, and I can hear what people are saying, not like it, but not turn it inwards, which is how I would always have done. I would always have turned it inwards and gone away and told myself silly fat cat or whatever words came up, and they were very unkind. I'm some days I'm not quite so grounded, and it still can wobble me. And I can catch it. Eventually, it might take an hour, it might take a day to catch it. But it was like anything. It's a practice, isn't it?
It is. It is, and I wondered, what were some of the first practices you started doing on kind of your self-love journey? Do you remember? Or any that stick out? You might not remember the first one.
I was going to ask you the same question. So
well, I'm happy to answer too.
You go first. While I think of my answer, you go first.
Okay. Well, one of the things I did, I had to keep things simple, because if I made it too complicated, it gave opportunities for that negative self-talk to grab onto something. And so I think I've mentioned this before, I would do mirror work, but not where I would sit and stare at myself for a long time, because that gave my brain a chance to be all the negative things. So I would do drive-by mirrors and quick hits. So I would just be every little thing I could think about that I could be excited about, I would give myself a high five and go, you did it. Look, that's incredible. And then I'd move on. That's it. So be really fast.
High five in the mirror.
High five in the mirror.
Yeah, I love it.
And I'd be great job, you. Yes. And then leave, that was one of my first ones. And it was and then I made it a game. It's how many times can I find something to high five about, and it's so just, and that it sounds so, I don't know how it sounds, but it could sound silly or childish or whatever, but it was so fun.
Yeah.
And you know what? Our inner us responds to that. It's we're being congratulated. It's yeah, look at you. Good job.
Yeah.
You did a thing. And it can.
No, go ahead. Well, your inner you is just hearing yourself be congratulated, even if it's you congratulating yourself. I mean, it works.
That's exactly right. It really works. Yeah. And it could be, it was a whole broad, so it could be something I wanted to meditate that day and I did it, but look at you, good job. And it could also be something oh, I didn't do the thing, and look, I didn't beat up on myself. Yay, that's great. Good job. So honestly, it could have just been all over the place, but I started looking for ways to congratulate myself, to build myself up, because that was on the back end of all of this negative self-talk, the voice that was constantly looking for every little thing that was wrong, that I did wrong, that I was wrong. And so this was a counter I don't want to say attack, the
counter move.
Counter move, much better. It was a counter move to that.
Yeah.
So that was one of the first things I started doing. Did you think of one?
I really love that it wasn't just about things you'd done. It was, you were also celebrating, congratulating yourself for not bad-mouthing yourself, for not doing something that you meant to do. I think that is absolutely wonderful, because that's a whole other level, I think, when you get to there. Yeah, I've got a few now. Now I've had time to think. But certainly my journey, my story, when I had my breakdown in 2017, my story was very much around people pleasing. And because I thought I was going to lose the sight in my eye. Anyway, if I couldn't be the people pleaser, the pleasing everybody, the meeting everybody else's needs, if I couldn't be that person, I was utterly worthless. That was my story in 2017, because up until then, my story had been, oh, look at me doing all these things for everybody else, which was not a great place to be, but I could do those things.
Yeah.
Completely to my own detriment, but I could do those things. And then when it became apparent that I probably wasn't going to be able to do those things anymore, I was like, God, my self-worth was like at the all-time low. I mean, it wasn't great most of the time, but all-time low. So my first steps were all about doing things that I wanted to do, that weren't about anybody else.
Yes, beautiful.
I mean, they tick self-care boxes, they tick lots of boxes, but they did also tick the box of self-love. That it was something I wanted to do, and it was something that it did help other people, but actually it didn't help the people that I'd always spent all my life helping. And it was something that I had chosen to do. And it was very little baby steps. And that's how I have done most of my inner work, little baby steps.
Yeah.
Like you, I ended up doing mirror work. My therapist got me doing mirror work, but mine was sitting in front of a mirror, staring at myself. And I couldn't do it for 3 weeks without just bawling. I just cried because all I could see was the pain in my eyes.
Yes.
And I couldn't do it for, I don't know, 10 seconds the first day, and I was bawling my eyes out. But it did actually gradually get better. It was letting the emotion out really helped. And then I mean, I look at myself in the mirror these days. I mean, being on Zoom, we record this on Zoom, but being in Zoom all the way through, the pandemic, I've learned to see myself a lot now. And, I look at myself in the mirror these days and I kind of smile at myself and go, oh, hi, it's fine. I don't have that aversion to it anymore. And one other little thing that really helped. So the mirror work was phenomenal, but it was hard. It is hard. And I never did it. I only ever did it with my face. I never did it with my body. I never did it with my body. The other thing I don't think affirmations can cure everything, but I think there is a time and a place for an affirmation. And I used to have, in fact, I still have it. It's the wallpaper on my phone is a post-it on which I have written, "You are safe and you are looked after." And that's what I needed. So that's probably been there for about 6 years. And I needed to hear that then. I really needed to know that I was safe. And that was a real act of self-love for me. I knew I needed to hear it, and I saw it. Every time I picked my phone up, I saw it. And, I know it's still there. I don't look at it anywhere near as much as I used to do, but that really worked as well.
Oh my gosh. I love everything you're saying so much. And that post-it note, when you were talking about that, I'm just like, oh, and you created that. You're safe because you've made it safe for yourself. Exactly. Yes.
I've got me now. It's okay.
Yes.
I am looking after me.
Yes.
I did a lot of inner child work and reparenting my really hurt inner child. And so part of that work that I did was, I think I was given a whole long list of affirmations and, read them all out until one just went, oh, and that was the one that made me go, oh, that's what I needed to hear. So that's why I wrote that one down. Yeah. And I think that's actually the only affirmation I've really used in that way, actually. It was very meaningful at the time. It still is.
Yeah. I love that you let your gut decide. It's like when you felt it. And I think that's the key with affirmations. I think where it can go wrong is when you're saying something and your brain is contradicting it. And so it's just like, well, what energy are you putting out there?
Yeah. And you're
when you
not
can
feeling
find
it.
the one that you feel that's different. Yeah.
Feel that the one that you can feel in your body that makes you go, yeah, that's what I need.
That's exactly right.
So anybody out there who is using affirmations and is wondering why they're not working, well, maybe there's a different one that might work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me, like, after the high five, once I was comfortable with that, I would do things like look at my eyes and say, I love you.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. And I could never have started with that, which is why I love what you talked about. Like, it's baby steps. Like these are things that, like, it's okay if you can't do it now. It doesn't mean you won't be able to, because it's building on it, a little thing at a time, and over time. And now I can absolutely look at myself in the eyes and say, I love you, and I couldn't have when I started. There's no way. There's no way.
Do you remember that day in our community where we said that we all loved each other? And I was like, that was really interesting, because that was a real moment. Because yes, I mean, I do love myself and I love my family, but saying people outside to other people outside of that, that I love them, is like a whole, okay, what does that mean? And it all feels really vulnerable, actually, weirdly, more vulnerable. And that was a really lovely day, a lovely time, that happened. And I think, you have to love you inside to be able to do that.
That's exactly right. I mean, that is another wonderful thing about the work of self-love, is that once we're giving that to ourselves, we then have something else to offer. And I mean, I could look back in my life and go, well, I was always, giving out love. And sure, to some degree, I definitely was. But there was also a lot of woundedness and, and neediness and things that I was giving out with that. And probably conditions, because I was feeling conditional love toward myself. So it's really all I could offer, even if I wanted to be able to offer more. Like, the desire was to be different, but the reality probably wasn't there. But when you have that within yourself, then you have that resource to truly give to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm talking of giving to somebody else. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Self-Love Club?
Yes, I'm super excited about. I don't know. Is it a class? Is it a circle? Is it a group? I hadn't planned far enough ahead, Philippa, to decide what I want to name it, but a program. That's the word.
Yeah, and it's got a working title. It might change, but
exactly. But a program that I'm working on, launching in January 2023, whose working title is Self-Love Club. And it's all about what we're talking about. It is opportunities to really fill your own inner cup, to look at these different parts of yourself and learn how to fall in love, right? How to grow that love and acceptance and self-compassion. Yeah. And it's
exciting.
I'm really excited. Yeah. I'm really excited.
And why would anybody listening want to do that?
I don't know how we can move forward with healing, with growth, with our own, like, inner work and evolution without growing self-love. Like, I think you will hit a wall that you won't be able to get past until you learn to do that. And aside from that, like, you deserve to be loved.
Yeah.
And so all these things that you're seeking outside of yourself, they are available to you, but you've got to learn how to give them to yourself first.
Yeah.
Like, that's how they become available to you, honestly. And I don't mean that means you have to be alone. I don't mean that. But I mean, by learning how to love yourself enables you then to be loved by others and to love others. Like, it, yeah. It's, gosh, everyone deserves to love themselves.
I know.
Yeah.
And you can hear your passion in it. And I know how we've been meaning to do a self-love episode for a while, because this is,
it's one of our favorites.
It is. And it's definitely one of yours. I'm not saying it's not one of mine, but it's really one of yours.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. It really is.
So more news on that program as it
absolutely
comes. But this is definitely your passion, and that's why, like we were talking about earlier, it's life-changing.
It is.
It is.
It really is. It has been for both of us, and
for
everyone I talk to who invests in this. Like, it's investing in yourself in this way of learning how to appreciate and love yourself will yield tremendous benefit. Like, I don't know a better investment, honestly, than growing your own self-love.
I totally agree. And everyone benefits as well. The ripple effect.
Yes.
Is that everybody around you then benefits. So it's not selfish. It's not like navel gazing. It's not, it's real quality, important, deep work that allows you to be the best version of yourself and take that best version of yourself into all your relationships. And everybody benefits. So
yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, exciting.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say? Have we covered all your areas of self-love you want to talk about today?
I mean, I was going to say we could talk forever, but exactly. I think we've done it justice today, I think. And more to come in the future.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll leave it there for today. So it's bye from me.
And bye from me.
Thanks for listening to HSP Connection. If you've enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes. Also, we'd really appreciate it if you could rate the podcast and share it with anyone you think might be interested. It helps others find us. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can also leave us a review.
To get in touch with us, you can email us at hspconnectionpodcast@gmail.com. And we'd love to hear from you with your thoughts and comments on the episodes and any suggestions you have for future topics and guests.
We are both HSP coaches and speakers. And to find out more about Robbie, go to Robbie Lee, that's leigh.com.
And to find out more about Philippa, go to safeandsupported.co.uk. See you next time.